Hello. Tonight we're talking about Noah, the Parshah Noah. And as usual, we will quickly go through what the Parshah is all about, and then we will discuss a couple of interesting points related to that Parshah. So, first of all, just to give you a perspective on timing, Noah was born in 1056 as per Jewish calendar, and died in 2006 as per Jewish calendar. So he lived altogether 950 years. We know that Noah was 600 years old when the great flood has started. So it means the flood started in 1656, which is basically 4,100 and something years ago. Noah's father was Lamech and grandfather was Methuselah. Both of them lived very, very long lives, and later on I will show you a table of all the generations with life expected and life durations of those people. And there are very interesting points in there. So God instructs Noah as the one and only righteous man in the whole world. The whole world was consumed by violence and corruption. He instructs Noah to build an ark, a wooden teva, an ark, coated with inside and outside with pitch. And he tells him that he is going to send a hamabul in Hebrew, a great flood, which the ark is supposed to protect Noah, his family, and animals which Noah will collect during that flood. God tells Noah that he should build the ark by himself, and it will take him 120 years. And Noah builds the ark for 120 years in the middle of a plain, basically, far away from any sea, river, or any water to speak of, and starts building, and he builds that ark during 120 years. Why that is done that way? Because God was hoping that while he is building the ark and people ask him what is he doing and what it's all about, and Noah telling them about the forthcoming flood, people will start thinking about their behavior and what is it they're doing and what kind of life they have, and hopefully they will start asking for forgiveness and they'll start changing their lifestyle. Which obviously did not happen. So what kind of lifestyle are we talking about? What was it? Apparently the people behaved such a way that they did not accept any limits, any rules of behavior whatsoever. Whoever was stronger was ready to kill and could kill. Whoever wanted somebody else's wife, he could take her, he could rape her. People were killing and murdering each other worse than animals. The behavioral pattern was much, much worse than you can even imagine. It was an incredible, very wild society with horrible behavior and horrible relationships between each other. So eventually the rain starts falling and falls for 40 days. Initially it was falling just very gently because God was still hoping that somebody will start praying and asking for forgiveness, and then he would stop the whole thing. However, nothing like this happened. So the rain started falling really very heavily. All floodgates were open from above, from the sky, from Shamayim, and the underground springs were open, and the water started coming up from the bosom of the earth, basically. For 150 days, the water level was increasing to a level where eventually the ark basically stopped at the pinnacle of the Mount Ararat. And after 150 days, the water starts receding. And rain obviously stopped after 40 days. So Noah opens the window, and he eventually sends a raven to find out whether the waters have subsided. But the raven doesn't want to fly away too far because he is actually concerned about Mrs. Raven, and that's why he didn't want to fly away. He felt sort of concerned for her safety. So Noah waited for another 7 days, and then he sent a pigeon, and the pigeon initially flew away, and came back with nothing, and it means that meant to Noah that the water's still there. And then he sent the pigeon in another 7 days. He sent pigeon again, and pigeon flew away, and eventually pigeon came back, and he was holding in his beak an olive branch, and it was a fresh olive, just grown up. So Noah understood that somewhere the water receded so much that there wasn't even time for an olive to grow up. And when the next time he sent the pigeon to fly away, the pigeon never came back. And this is when Noah understood that really the waters have receded. This is when he opened the door of the ark. And that was 365 days after the flood has started. But the animals didn't want to go out. Noah didn't want to leave the ark either. He wasn't really very happy. Vegemite Noah. He sort of was thinking, I will never procreate again. He didn't want to procreate because what's the point to increase the humanity and to have children when God will eventually kill all of them anyway? So that's why he didn't feel like initially leaving the ark either, because they had a very good life in the ark, because they lived in the world to come environment where there is no disease, there is no suffering, there is no pain, there is no death. The food has been provided. They had a wonderful lifestyle, and that's why the lambs were safe and the wolves were fed, and nobody killed anybody. So the animals initially even didn't want to leave the ark. But when God eventually ordered them and Noah and Noah's sons and their wives and Noah's wife, all of them to leave, they stepped out. And Noah actually, physically, some of the animals required actually some physical push in order to get out. When they stepped out, Noah builds an altar and offers sacrifices of kosher animals to God. And not only animals, there were kosher animals and kosher birds were sacrificed on an altar, which was a scent sacrifice. It means that the whole meat, the whole animal burns completely, and only pleasant odor for Hashem, pleasant odor goes up to the skies, to the Shamayim, and this is when God said, when he felt that smell, he felt some sort of a, I guess, remorse or additional consideration of the fact that he virtually destroyed everything on this planet except those 8 people and the animals which they have saved. And as a consequence of this, God proclaims to Noah and his sons and their wives that he will never destroy again the mankind this way. And he sets the rainbow as a testimony of his new covenant with the man. And he gives them 7 Noahide laws. Gives Noah the 7 Noahide laws, and tells him that these are the foundations of your moral and ethical standards. This was a necessary step to create a new generation of people totally different to what was basically destroyed by the flood. So what are the 7 Noahide laws, which are the laws for the non-Jews? Do not deny God, do not blaspheme God, do not murder, do not engage in illicit sexual relations, do not steal, do not eat from a live animal, and establish courts and legal system to ensure obedience to the law. So it means that not only the courts and legal system, but you need the police, you need to establish some sort of a statehood system which will uphold the letter of the law. And some of those laws, we obey those laws, as a matter of fact, subconsciously today, because they are so much ingrained in our psyche. Jewish people, as you know, have got another 613 laws, mitzvot, on top of that. After all of this, Noah plants a vineyard and becomes drunk on the produce, on the wine. Ham's son, Canaan, discovers his grandpa actually being drunk. Ham was the youngest son of Noah. And what Ham does is absolutely horrible and despicable. Because not only he saw the nakedness of his father, which Torah forbids, you should not see the nakedness of your father, it's clearly stated in the Torah. He basically castrated him. Why? Because apparently the Midrash is telling about this, because he didn't want another brother to be produced, because there will be the fourth contender to the inheritance. He was thinking that, for the three of them, him, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, the three brothers, the whole earth to divide by three brothers, it's, that's probably already not enough. So he didn't want a fourth brother to have. And this was the main reason, as far as Midrash is explaining, why he acted in such a horrible way. After his son, Canaan, told him about the fact that grandpa is drunk and unconscious. After he's done his horrible deed, he informs Shem and Japheth about the fact that the father is drunk. I'm not sure whether he told them about what he has done, because Shem and Japheth never saw the nakedness of their father. They went backwards with blankets, so they did not see Noah naked, and they covered him with blankets. When Noah woke up from his drunk stupor, he basically cursed Ham and Canaan, and he blessed Shem and Japheth. Then the Parshah tells us about the generations of all the generations which came from those three sons. And you will see that those generations, the life expectancy has diminished quite dramatically. You will, and I will show you a table while I'm pronouncing these words. I will insert a table which will show you this in a visual format, so you will see how rapidly, how exactly after the flood, the life expectancy has diminished quite dramatically. Not only that. What has changed? The Earth's axis has changed, an angle of the Earth has changed. During the duration of the 150 days of the flood, neither the sun nor the moon nor the stars were shining. It was sort of semi-dark, very dark darkness. In other words, Hashem switched off all lighting, all electricity during the flood. The atmosphere has changed. As a consequence of this change, the amount of the ultraviolet light which is coming to the planet today became much greater than it was before. Why? Because the clouds before the flood were much higher density, and that's why the dispersion of light could not take place. And that's why you could not have the rainbow before the flood. And this is why the arguments which some people saying that the rainbow existed before the flood, what Torah is talking about, that God gave the rainbow to people as a sign of the covenant. Well, the truth is there is a very scientific and physical explanation to the fact that rainbow did not exist before the flood. And because of the increase of the ultraviolet radiation on the planet, more than likely this is one of the main reasons why our life expectancy has diminished quite dramatically. Now you will ask a question. How could all the animals to fit in that ark? You know, the ark dimensions were not that huge. It was Hashem ordered to build the ark 300 cubits, which is 144 meters or 471 feet. The width was 50 cubits, which is 24 meters wide or 77 feet. And the height was 30 cubits, 14.4 meters high or 47 feet. You know, God said to Noah that you will put in the skylight on the top in there, you will put a special stone through which you will have light inside the ark. If you will look at those dimensions which I just mentioned of the ark, you will find that the ark cross-section had actually a golden ratio, exactly the same ratio as the pyramids. So it means that it was a very, very special design. And as a matter of fact, in pyramids, there is a physical evidence that, for instance, products which are kept inside the pyramids stay fresh for much, much longer than they would otherwise. And the air inside the pyramids within that kind of geometrical structure is circulating differently. And so there are a number of very interesting aspects of purely scientific evidence showing that the ark was a very special structure which existed in the material world and spiritual world at the same time. And this is how all of the animals fitted in. And this is why they already had the world to come in there, because the environment in there was totally different from the antagonistic, aggressive environment which existed before the flood on the planet. And we still have got some of it, not as bad as it was there and then, but you know, we cannot imagine what the world to come will be and how peaceful it will be. In addition, God said to Noah to take 7 pairs of kosher animals for themselves to eat, to have some food as well there, and as well as to have additional pairs for sacrifices. So, as you can see, there are a lot of physical factors which are not really well known and well explained in generic knowledge about what was happening with the flood, what was it, and I hope you learned something new during this little discussion. Now, let's go a little bit further. Then people, when of course Noah's sons reproduced and multiplied as God told them, procreate and multiply, and obviously the population on the planet grew, and eventually there were quite a lot of people on the planet, and they eventually finished up in a valley which is today's Iraq, and they decided that they will have a new, they wanted to settle there because it was between the rivers, there was a lot of water in there, and it was very nice and part of the land. They decided that they need to build a tower. They wanted to build a tower. How do you build a tower? You don't have stones, because apparently over there were no stones. So they invented a brick. It was a greatest invention of the time. They invented the fact that they could take clay and fire it in a kiln, in a stove, and this is what they will use to build the tower. So they decided to build a tower in order to get up to the Shamayim, to the sky, to the spiritual world, and wrestle away from God the control over the world. That was Nimrod. King Nimrod was in charge. That was his idea, and he united the whole world, all of the tribes, and everybody was they all were participating in this one and only project. Eventually, Hashem decided to come down and have a look at what is going on in there. And when he realized what they're doing, and he acted as a proper judge, because the halakhic law says that a judge cannot pass a judgment until he himself will assess the situation, the guilty party, or whatever is going on, and will see and observe it with his own eyes. So that's why he came down and looked at the whole thing, and he decided, all right, I will not destroy them, but I will mix up their language. So, and this is how they are one and only language of God, because they were using Lushan Kodesh. That was their language, the language of creation, the same language as God used to create the world. And they were building that Babel tower in material way by using the bricks, and spiritual way through using the words as well. So it wasn't such a stupid project anyway, all over. And that's why God obviously took charge and took some action. So he mixed up the language, and that's why the project has collapsed. And they all dispersed around the world, and they all got different languages, but all of those languages stem from Lushan Kodesh, from the original Torah Hebrew. So the Parshah finishes up with the appearance of Abraham. It mentions Abraham, Sarah, Terach, Abraham's father, and Lot, Abraham's nephew. Abraham was born in 1948 and in Ur, and he married Sarai, who was daughter of Haran, which was Abraham's brother. And she was sister of Lot. Lot was Haran's son as well. And Abraham's father was idol wholesaler, basically. He was making and selling idols. And Abraham, when he came up with the idea of one God, and he actually worked it all out through his own learning and abilities. One day he destroyed actually his father's idols, and the father basically told Nimrod, the king, or the police department, that his son misbehaved so badly, destroyed his business, and this is when we learn about that. We learn about Abraham and how Nimrod threw him in the kiln, in the stove. The Parshah finishes up with the story of Abraham, Terach, Abraham's father, Abraham, Sarai, and Lot, basically leaving Ur and going to Haran. All the way already at that time, while in Haran, Abraham and Sarai began spreading monotheism and gradually started gathering people around them, which followed them and became affiliated with them in a very strong way. The thing is that those activities of Abraham and Sarai have pacified God's anger against people, and after the dispersion, because the idol worshipping which was taking place there in Babylon basically was on incredible scale. The whole world were basically denying God's existence. In the year 2018, when Abraham was 70 years old, he visited Canaan briefly, and God appeared to him there and promised to give him Canaan and to take him as a forefather of future generations. And Abraham returned to Haran and told his father Terach that he wants to go to Canaan, because actually by this time God told him, I want you, your wife and your wife, to leave your father, to leave your walls, to leave your home, your house, and to go where I will tell you. And this would be actually the beginning of the next Parshah, Lech Lecha. So may I suggest we stop at this very point, and we will see each other again when I will tell you about Lech Lecha, the next Parshah, which is the beginning of big story of our forefather Abraham and his wife Sarah, and what did they do and how did they change the future history of humanity. Have a nice day, have a nice evening, have a nice morning, whatever it is. Goodbye, and I will see you next time.